Previously on Next Level Conversations.
Real struggle just to show up.
I know.
For real, it's a real struggle to be present
I know.
in life right now.
We're embarking on change. I think you have to recognize a why.
I want to be whole. I want to be healed. I want to be healthy. I want to live.
And sometimes you just need a person that cares.
Finding people that could
relate
and in that specific moment.
Okay.
People that you love, you learn. So when you take the time to learn them, when they're off, they may tell you that they're okay, but because you've taken the time to love them and to learn them, you know that they're really not, so you can give them the attention that they need.
The growth mindset isn't I'm just going to keep growing. It's I know I'm going to fail, I'm going to be discouraged, I'm going to be unmotivated.
Build a house in the negativity. Ask yourself, what can I get from it? How can I use it? How can I grow from it, with it? Whatever, just so you can take whatever it is that you're experiencing and allow it to serve you. You get the choice.
An action plan. That's where you call your friend, your coach, your therapist, your people, and you get some support, right? We have to be real about the fact that we need a push, we need accountability, and change is this daily.
As parents, we want our children to be able to communicate internally with their emotions, to solve a problem or a blockage, and move forward consciously and constructively. But to help our children develop their ability to communicate their emotions, we must also continuously develop ours. I'm joined tonight by LaDonna Harlan. We first talked with LaDonna in season 1 when she joined us to talk about how to elevate our lives. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the importance of emotional intelligence and how we can develop emotional strength within ourselves and our children. LaDonna is a clinical psychology student who helps adults and youth who face challenges such as grief, trauma, depression, anxiety, obsessive-compulsive disorders, low self-esteem, and whatever life challenges they may need. She helps support them in moving forward to new levels of elevation. Those was a lot of words, so my tongue got tied. As a mother, she is intimately familiar with highly sensitive and convoluted issues. Please join me tonight in welcoming LaDonna Harlan. LaDonna.
Hi.
Thank you so much again for joining us on the show, season 2. I am so grateful to have you here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
And you're looking beautiful.
Same as you. Thank you.
So when we last talked, you were talking with us about how to think positive and how our thoughts help us to grow and move forward. We've been concentrating this month on mental health and all the things that encompass mental health. And I want to talk with you tonight. As I said, we're going to be talking tonight about emotional intelligence and how our emotional state affects our mental health and some of the things that we go through, how it affects our mental health, and how you and the organizations that you've been working with are helping individuals get the help that they need and move forward in life.
Okay.
And so before we start, why don't you talk to us a little bit about emotional intelligence or emotional influence? I think emotional fluency, I think they're basically the same thing. But talk with us a little bit about exactly what that is.
So when I was first introduced to emotional intelligence, I didn't know what the heck that was. I never heard of that. When you think about intelligence, you think about smart, being smart, right? So when I was first introduced to it, I was in such a low place. And I didn't even honestly realize it. And a gentleman walked up to me and gave me a book, Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And I read the book, I listened to it on audio a couple of times, and then I realized that I was mismanaging my emotions.
Ooh.
And not only mismanaging my emotions, but I missed all the cues for everyone else's emotions, right? I was just totally all over the place, trying to figure out life, trying to figure out how I can get myself out of this dark place. But most importantly, I was missing just everyone else around me. So when you talk about emotional intelligence, you talk about not only just being aware of your emotions, managing those, but also being aware of the emotions of others around you.
Okay. Okay. Let's step back because I do want to. I am going to try to get a little personal tonight. And you don't have to answer anything you don't feel comfortable answering.
Okay.
But when you talk about, as we get ready to walk into emotional intelligence, when you talk about that dark place that you were in, can you just kind of describe a little bit of what it looked like, such that you were not in control of your emotions, such that so that people who don't know have an idea of, okay, that sounds about like where I am or where I've been.
So I've been there a couple of times. So initially, when he gave me the book, it was right after I'd had my son. And so I was dealing with postpartum depression and I did not know it.
Okay.
I just knew that I didn't feel like it. I didn't want to get out of bed. I knew I had children to take care of. I knew I had a job to go to. But because of just who my natural nature is to just keep pushing forward, I didn't feel like it. I didn't want to, but I knew I had to. So I was just existing. I was basically a zombie, just a robot, very robotic, just doing exactly what I needed to do, nothing more, nothing less. And so the people around me, they were just clueless, right? It was actually outside people who looked and said, something's not right. Like something's wrong. And it wasn't people who knew me very long. They just knew a short period of time before this happened. I was one person, and like now I'm not happy about anything. Everything feels like it's falling apart. My answers were just very matter of fact. I just said enough words to get through that conversation so I can get to something else so people could just leave me alone.
Wow. On last week's show, Patrick LeBlanc, who is the founder of one of the organizations that you work with, Bridging the Gap Foundation, he was telling us, he gave us 4 dimensions to look for to determine if someone is having mental health issues. And one of the signs that he told us to be aware of was their people's language and how they were speaking, as well as what their appearance looked like. And it sounds like what you're saying is you were exhibiting at least 2 of those signs openly. And I think, because I've experienced this in my life, I think we get, as you said, we get so used to just going through life, just, okay, we're just going and moving, that people can't see and they don't really know that we're in a very desperate emotional state. How did you go from that mismanage of emotions to some emotional balance and find your intelligence in emotions?
So, so it's happened a couple of times. The first time, I think it was you. We were at church, and I was like literally on the verge of probably not even being here anymore.
I remember that.
And you walked up to me and was like, "I'm not gonna let you die." And I looked at you like, how the heck does she know that, right? And you just kept saying, "I'm not gonna let you die. I'm not gonna let you die." And it was through, like, you hugged me, it's what seemed like forever through that moment. And I remember leaving church just thanking God for allowing you to see it, but you kept at it, right? You just kept calling and you kept talking. And that's the first time during that time that I'd read that book, but I read it, but it didn't register.
Okay.
Right? The second time it happened, I was going through the motions again, and one of my other friends, her name is Shalonda, she kept saying, "You don't look right," right? And at that particular time, like, I was really on the verge again of probably not being here, and she let me know that she saw me. I had, at that particular time, I also found a really great therapist. I'd been through several therapists, right? But I found a really great therapist, and I finally found a therapist that sees me, right? And so between my accountability partners, you guys, and my therapist, I was able to get because the beautiful thing about you guys as my accountability partners, y'all don't let me sit there. And I think that's the great thing about having emotional intelligence. You have to be able to be in tune with your emotions and the emotions of others, right? But the beautiful thing about y'all is y'all are in tune with y'all emotions and y'all are in tune with mine too. And we balance each other that way. And so I think that was most important. I read the book. The book was cool, right? But I think through my therapist, through you guys as my accountability partners, I was able to connect with my emotions better in a healthier way.
So let's talk about some of the ways now that you have connected and that you continue every day to connect with your emotions. Because I really I like the words that you're using. Better, and I like when you said manage my emotions and now connect with my emotions. How do we teach people how to experience a situation but not allow that situation to overcome them emotionally?
So I think one of the things that was really key for me and really key for me, that's just a moment, right? It's not the sum total of your life. It's not even the sum total of your day. It's not even the sum total of that hour, right? It's a moment. Allow yourself to experience it, but you have to correctly identify it. So the thing that I've challenged myself to do, and I challenge my clients to do, is to really know what is that emotion really. Because we always say, oh, I'm sad, oh, I'm happy, oh, I'm afraid, right? But one of the things I will do with my clients is we'll get the emotional wheel, the emotion wheel. And even if you say, I'm sad, are you really sad or are you bored? Right? I need you to correctly to identify it. I had to correctly to identify it because if I don't correctly identify it, I can't do anything about it. It's going to constantly show up because you're not identifying it correctly. So if you just go around and say, oh, I'm just so sad today, but you're really bored, you're not really sad, you're never going to correct it because you just think you're sad when the truth is you're bored and you need to find something else to do with your time.
So how do you figure that out? How do you determine that?
I ask myself a lot of questions, and I think that's the struggle as parents. We don't like our kids to ask questions, right?
True.
We don't want them to ask anything. Don't ask me why. Don't question anything I say. Don't question anything I do. And so for the longest time, I wouldn't ask myself questions. I'll just be like, oh, I'm sad today, right? But why are you sad? What were you doing the moment before you start feeling this thing? I even asked myself, what did you eat the moment before you felt this thing right here? Because all of that plays a part
into our emotions.
Yes, so all of that plays a part. So one of the things that my daughter asked me for, my oldest daughter asked me for a long time ago was a safe space, right? And so at first I was like, what the heck is a safe space, right? And so this was just a space that she wanted to say whatever she needed to say, however she needed to say it, and I not flip out, right? And so at first I was like, this is crazy. I don't like this. However, I think it's important to give them a safe space because it allows them the freedom to express themselves. There is nothing like being an adult afraid to express yourself because you've been told, be quiet, shut up, that doesn't matter. What do you have to be mad or sad about all your life, right? And so you grow up to become these closed off adults that are afraid to express themselves. So in her safe space, she can express herself. I don't like it all the time. I have to eat it a lot, right? But I know what's going on with her. And I know what to look for. And I know that I can help her the best way I can. And if she needs to go to therapy, she can go to therapy. I'm not going to try to be her therapist, but I will always be her mom. And sometimes mom means coaching. Sometimes
Okay.
moms mean giving direction, giving her a book to read, maybe giving her a journal to write in. But I have to show up how they need me, when they need me, and I need them to understand that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, and wow, did you learn? Okay, did you learn that through working with your counselor, or have you always been? Because there was a point in time when you were not properly managing your emotions. Do you think you've always managed theirs like this?
So the crazy part about me not managing my emotions, I have no problem helping
Helping
manage
other
other.
people.
I'm the one that I forget about.
Yeah.
I'm the one that I don't take care of. So for them, I want them to know I'm always there, right? Regardless of what I'm feeling or going through, they need to know that I'm always there. I don't always like it or agree, but I'm going to show up the best way I can when I can. So for them, I try to always be that. I go to school, I go to SAGU. So school has taught me a lot of things as well. So I know signs to look for depression, for anxiety. I know the signs to look for all kind of disorders. So when I see certain things show up, I'm like, that don't look right. Let me watch it and see how it goes. No different than one of my children, she kept saying, "Oh, my heart hurts. My heart hurts." And her heart was beating really fast. We had her on a heart monitor. She was going to the asthma doctor. They had on 3 different asthma pumps. It was so many things going on, and I just so happened to be I was writing a paper in school on anxiety. Panic attacks, actually. And I was reading the DSM, and in the DSM, in the smallest notes ever, like the little notes underneath all of disorders, it talked about the triggers for anxiety. One was an asthma pump, right?
Really?
The other was dairy, and there's a whole list of other things. So I didn't say anything to her. I just started watching. What was she eating, right? And it comes to find out it was dairy that was triggering her panic attack. She done been to all of these
Really?
she's been to all of these doctors, and it was the dairy that was triggering her panic attack. So I was able through school and writing those papers to learn what it is, what's going on with my children. And so not every parent has a DSM to look through, but I think it is important for you to really watch your kids, not micromanage them in a way that they are afraid to talk to you and open up to you, but watch enough to see, can I determine any triggers? Is there something else that's going on? Because as adults, we move so fast trying to take care of us that we forget about our babies. And I don't want to do that, and I don't want other parents to do that.
Wow. Okay, because that is so wow to me. And just to kind of recap, one thing that parents can do to help their children move into emotional intelligence, because they have to be taught. They do. They have to be taught. You talked about creating this safe space, which you know that I'm real big about safe space, because I think safe spaces allow us to heal. And growing up, you have a similar upbringing that I did. As you say, we were not allowed to speak. We were not allowed to voice the things that were going on inside of us, and we were not allowed to talk about our trauma. So we just learned to suppress it, and we became adults who suppressed the trauma and didn't know how to talk and stuff like that. So I think it's so awesome that you have been intentional about creating a safe space for your children to develop themselves. You talked about some other signs that parents can look for. You talked about signs, the signs of depression and anxiety. I know dairy, okay? Dairy. Who would have thought? But what are some other things that parents can kind of be on the lookout for with to kind of help help their children and
So-
manage their emotions?
So it's really difficult for parents right now, especially with this social media stuff going on, because children want to isolate, right? They want to go in their room and be on their phone for hours and hours and hours, and they just want to not be involved. But I think it's really important for parents. I try so hard to do this in my house, and it's really hard. We have to limit their social media. We have to limit their phone time, and especially with teenagers, it's really really hard because everything is on their classwork is on the phone or a tablet or a computer. They're communicating with their friends that way. So we have to be really intentional about engaging our children. We have to be intentional about putting things back in order, right? Because we're so busy. Social media is taking over. Electronics are how people are raising their children, right? We have to become more intentional about putting things in order. Eat together at night. When they come home, ask, how was your day? Tell me about your day. Tell me about your friends. You don't even know your children's friends, right? Tell me about your friends. Tell me the things y'all talking about.
But what
let's
happens
talk.
when parents ask these questions and they fine? We ain't talk about nothing. Give us an example of some, some questions that we can add that. I'm talking about we, like I got some kids that they can ask. But I have nieces,
You have
I have
nieces
nieces and
and-
nephews
right.
who I try to engage in these conversations, and the first thing out of their mouth, it was fine. Okay, well, what did
What
you
was
learn?
fine?
What was so? What are some things that they can do to get their kids to talking?
Keep talking.
Keep
The
talking.
problem is we get so frustrated because they have an attitude. Kids know us. Let's be 100. Kids know us. If I say this enough time, they're gonna let go. Right? All guys, it's fine. Right? They have this attitude because they know us. They know when we say, if you don't stop doing X, Y, and Z, you're gonna get in trouble. They're like, okay, right? Because they know, just like you know what triggers your children to act a certain way, they know you too. So keep talking. When they say this, what was fine? Okay, well tell me about that. Or tell me about this. What happened to your friend X? Y? Listen, what happened to your friend such and such? What happened to that friend? Right? You have enough clues that you can keep the conversation going. The problem is we're moving so fast, the conversations become shorter because we're trying to get to our next thing. And we have to be more intentional about engaging.
Wow, that is good. That is really good. Okay, we are going to continue this conversation, and I am going to allow our audience, because I know we have some parents in the audience, I'm going to allow them to ask you some questions, but we're going to take a pause because I want to bring on another young lady that you've been working with, and she has just blossoming. So that we can talk with her, and then we're just going to open it up to the audience. But we will bring her on right after this message.
I am so excited to share with you and dive into this question. What do you want to be known for? What do you want to be perceived as? How do you want to be received? We're going to talk about your personal brand. Who are you? What do you want to be known for? It's interesting because when we think of branding, we also think, I have to be an entrepreneur. I have to own my own business. That's not true. Anybody and everybody. We are our own walking brand, and we're going to have fun doing some exercises and diving in and getting to know ourselves and diving in and getting to know, what do we want to be known for? How do you get there? How do you get there? We're going to show you, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it.
We are back, and I am joined by LaDonna Harlan, who has been talking with us about emotional intelligence. Joining us now is Kalandria Rogers. Kalandria is a junior at Texas Southern and helps other young adults care about the help they are getting. Hey, Kalandria.
Hi.
How are you? Thank you so much for joining us on this evening.
Thank you for having me.
So you've been listening to us talk about emotional intelligence, and I want to, if you will take a minute, just kind of tell our audience just a little bit about you and how things are going in your life.
So I am a junior at Texas Southern University with a major in psychology and a minor in child and family development, excuse me. And I'm on the career path to become a clinical child psychologist. So that just started with me with past experiences within life, just seeing things about how my family needed mental health and mental health professional counseling and things like that. So just seeing like the absence of that within my life, it made me want to like explore more about it and just see, what's the field like.
Can you tell us a little bit, and LaDonna, please feel free to jump in here. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing? I know that you are the oldest of I can't remember how many. Just to, you know what? Instead of me trying to tell everybody about your life,
Okay, so I grew up in Dallas. It was I would say it was a pretty good life, pretty blessed. My mom was single, so it was really just on her shoulders for everything. I was the oldest of her now three kids. Um, but just seeing her just do everything on her own, honestly, it just made me stronger. And just seeing how strong she was, it was just, she was Miss Make It Happen, honestly.
how did y'all in your family? We've been talking about we were talking about a safe space and developing our emotional intelligence. And I know you were saying that seeing how that there wasn't any mental health work going on in your family. How did you, as the oldest of three, which is pretty challenging because I'm too, and we sit with a lot of things on our shoulders, especially with parents with single mothers. So we carry a lot. How did you? What type of family dynamics did you have coming up where you were able to talk about or process? How did you handle processing your emotions and managing your how did your mom go about managing your mental health?
For me, I kind of just, for the most part, I was the type to kind of bottle everything in and just try to make sure everything was okay on the forefront or like the face front of everything. And
Mhm.
just as long as I was okay when you see me, that's, as long as everything was taken care of, that was just kind of what needed to be worried about for me. Um, I tried to keep myself busy, especially just to keep my mind focused and just keep everything where it needed to be. But as far as my siblings, now I'm trying to make sure that they're okay with talking to me with how they feel or what's going on, especially my youngest sister. I try to make sure she has whatever she needs. Like, she's a firecracker. She's not afraid to tell you exactly what she feels, what she thinks. So, so yeah.
So you have basically done what LaDonna was talking about. You've created a safe place for your sister to be your siblings to be able to communicate and share what they're going through.
Yes.
So how did that transition? You said you bottled things up. How did that transition? How did that show up when you made it to college?
So with me, being in high school, it was just kind of keeping my mind busy. Everything was kind of way easier just because I had everything just kind of in reach. And I didn't realize it then, but like I had way more help than now. So just translated into college, I was already independent, but it was just like, okay, now I really have to figure out, now all the problems come to me first instead of through my mom first or
Mm.
stuff like that. So it was just kind of figuring out how to navigate stuff on my own even more now.
Did that mess with any of your, did that trigger any of your emotions? Did you ever feel overwhelmed? And if so, how did you handle those? How did you handle those emotions?
Ugh, always. But yeah, for the most part, I whenever I started to learn like what field I wanted to, I started to discover like more about psychology, what I wanted to do. And with mental health for me, I learned a lot more techniques as to helping myself. And once I got into college, it was just kind of easier to go to counseling, go to therapy, learn how to talk more and express myself more. And it was just about me finding my voice more now.
That's wonderful. So what have you learned in therapy about yourself that you think that you wouldn't have been able to learn outside of going to therapy?
That's good. Um, I would
I
say
tried to
for
answer
me,
the question.
I would say going to therapy definitely helped me learn how to prioritize myself more. Because I realized like if I can't take care of
Mm.
myself, then I can't take care of nobody else, honestly, around me. And just being honest with myself first helped me a lot more to understand what's going on and, be able to translate my thoughts and my feelings to everybody else around me.
I wish, you know what? I really wish that we would have learned that lesson. How old are you?
Shouldn't be 21.
I wish we would have learned that lesson at 21 because I was missing that at 21.
Well, I mean, I think you have to realize in our community, especially when we were growing up, therapy was not a thing. Mental health wasn't a thing. Like you saw your cousin, you knew something was wrong, but all you heard was, "Oh, they crazy," right?
Yeah.
So understanding mental health was not a thing in our as we were growing up, and therapy was definitely not a thing in our community now, which is why bridging the gap is so important. Um, Therapy is still not a big thing. We have to have organizations like Bridging the Gap that'll say, hey, I know you can't afford it, but let me help you get to someone who can help you. And I think in our community, it's important to stress the fact that we're here to help you. Whether you're a therapist or not, what's most important is being available to help the next person. That's
Yes.
what we should have received growing up. Knowing that we can help other people. And then that in turn would allow you to see I am important too.
Well, she told me. Calandria, so I want to move, I want to talk a little bit about the work that you and LaDonna are doing with Bridging the Gap Foundation. And before we start talking about that, I do want to just let our audience know we're going to be opening up the conversation so that you all can ask some questions. So you can go ahead and start dropping your questions into the chat for either LaDonna or Calandria. If y'all need a therapy session for a little bit, LaDonna is here to really give us some good therapy. Okay, Calandria. My first question to you is: was it hard for you to start doing therapy? Is that something that was, because it wasn't something that was talked about in your family? Was it hard for you to go to therapy and start talking to people?
Honestly, no, for me, just because it was something that I really had to make myself okay and comfortable with for a while before going. And I thought about it back in high school before I came to college. So my first session was actually on campus because they provided for us, and like just having the mental health days and stuff like that on campus was really helpful to me.
Mhm. Now, you said you thought about it in high school. You thought about going to therapy in high school.
Hmm.
So why didn't you? Why didn't you do therapy in high school?
For me, I was just too embarrassed to, or like too shy to tell anybody or ask to go. And like, cause I didn't have a means to pay for it, and I wanted to be the one. Like, if I was gonna go, I wanted to be able to pay for it and make sure I was able to contribute to what is going on with me. So I just felt like during that time, there was also the factor of maybe they're gonna tell my mom if she has to pay for it, or just you know, high school things or
You
teenage things.
you are really an amazing real strong individual. Just I love the way I love even going back before you even made it into therapy, just being so intelligent about your emotions and managing not just you but
Her moms.
your moms. That is just amazing. That is amazing. So can you talk to me briefly about how it felt when you did your first counseling session?
Oh, I was so nervous, honestly. I was just like, oh, what is she gonna say? What is she gonna think? Like, how do I have to go in there, honestly? And I was just like, what are we gonna talk about? What do I tell her? Where do I start? I just didn't know what to do. And she just made it a lot more comfortable for me and just was like, look, you just tell me whatever you thinking and just go in the order that you thinking it and we'll figure it out later. And that's what we did.
Let me ask a question. So, Calandra, as a coach, because your clients are high school students, so as a coach, how does that experience help you communicate with your clients?
So being that I was in that position, I know what to kind of look for, especially because it was a lot more recent for me. So I know what to kind of look for in those clients. And, I feel like me being sort of closer to their age, they're more willing to talk to me and like, just I'm able to kind of translate it into their day to day instead of just how I'm thinking about it.
That is awesome. Let's talk a little bit while we're getting ready to start taking questions. Let's talk a little bit about Bridging the Gap Foundation and the work that you all are doing with Bridging the Gap.
So I'll go. So Bridging the Gap is a foundation. Mr. LeBlanc, who you
Mm-hmm.
had on here last week, he's the founder. And when I started my practicum, I needed a place to get my hours. And so Dr. Thompson was working with Bridging the Gap. And so what Bridging the Gap does is allow individuals, African American individuals, the opportunity to have therapy on their own terms, basically. So if they can't afford the sessions, they will pay for 10 sessions for them. If they can afford $10, $20, $30, whatever, they allow them to pay for that. The most important thing about the foundation is you have access to therapy. You don't have to sit in your house and be low and depressed or deal with anxiety or suffer through triggers that's triggering they're more therapists. They can help you get through those moments. High school students have Mira, Calandra. We have a new coach, two new coaches that are coming on to help high school students. I see students as well. So because we don't understand as parents sometimes, our kids are going through it.
Yeah.
We may feel like we give them everything, they have everything under the sun, but they're really going through it. We don't know when they leave our homes what they're facing at school, what they're facing on social media, the thoughts that are going on in their head. Children are committing suicide at a younger age every year, and we think our 5, 6, 7 year olds won't do it, but they will. And we have to realize they need someone to talk to, and that someone is not always you.
Yeah.
I've found that my children will open up to a stranger quicker than they will ever talk to me. And it's nothing, don't take it personal as a parent. They need to feel like, let me see what this other person thinks. Because maybe my mom is off the walls. But when they find out that that other person has that same exact advice, then they're more inclined to listen to you. I don't take it personal when they want to come talk to Shantae, or they want to talk to Shalonda, or they want to talk to Kizzy, or they want to talk to whomever they want to talk to. I don't take it personal. I need them to have an outlet so when we all come together, we can have a plan. So if they want to talk to Calandria or Mira or any of the other coaches, allow them to do that.
Yeah.
Because we think they don't know. We think we know what they're going through, but you don't. You don't know. And so Bridging the Gap gives you that opportunity and allows you to be able to afford it. There are no more excuses. I can't afford therapy.
Yeah.
It's too expensive. You don't have that excuse anymore, and you especially don't have it for your children. That thing that Calandra was thinking, my parents my mom won't be able to afford that. That takes that off the table because bridging the gap allows you to be able to do that.
Kalandria, can you talk just a little bit about the work that you've been doing with Bridging the Gap?
Yeah, of course. So just being well, I started with Dr. Thompson, like Judge Charlotte said, just starting with Dr. Thompson under the Zero Debt College Project. I became a wellness coach with her, and she was working with Bridging the Gap. So that was kind of our project moving into it. It's just been honestly amazing getting to learn about everybody and learning like how to translate my skills throughout the profession, going through everybody and, just learning. Honestly, it's been a big learning experience for me.
Well, I tell you what, you are so far advanced and so that can handle it. I am 100%. I mean, I have to just tell you, I'm impressed by you. I've got to tell you that. So
Thank you.
um, now we are going to, as we get ready to, we're going to get ready to open up the conversation to our audience so that they can ask a few questions. Is that okay with you, Calandria?
Yes.
Okay, well, we will do that. We'll start taking questions right after this short break. Okay, so our audience has a few questions, and the first question is for you, Calandria. What does self care mean to you, and how do you practice it, especially being in college?
So for me, self-care just means taking care of whatever needs to be done to get yourself through the day. So whatever is not seen to make sure you're okay, basically. And for me, I practice it through just getting up, meditating, journaling, praying, taking walks, or just kind of relaxing whenever I get the chance to.
Okay, all very good things. I think I use a lot of those for for myself. LaDonna, this next question is for you. How do you handle people who think that therapy is for weak people?
So, how do I handle, like, how do I talk to my clients?
How do you address that? How do you deal with that when people?
So there's really nothing weak about taking care of yourself. Because
I agree.
honestly, that's what therapy is. It's you really taking care of yourself. Just like the self-care question they just asked for Calandra. They just asked Calandra. Therapy is really just taking care of yourself. It's giving yourself an opportunity to reset and to balance. Um, I tell my clients all the time, we're just hanging out
Yeah.
because that's really what we're doing. So I do my best to remove the stigma of therapy because I understand why they feel that way because the way we grew up, right? You have to be strong. You have to know what to do. You have to work. You have to not show emotions because if you show emotions, you're weak, right? So I understand why they feel that way. So I do my best to remove that stigma and let them know that it is strength in taking care of yourself. There is strength in making sure you balance, reset your mind, talk to someone. So just like you can gossip on the phone, come and hanging out with me or one of the other therapists to actually take care of some of the things that have been holding you back and allow you to propel yourself forward. That's not weakness, that's really strength.
Yeah. I like to think of myself pretty strong.
Ah,
Um, okay, Madonna, this question is for you.
okay.
How do you de-stress after a bad day at work?
So I have people I talk to. So I may talk to those people. Sometimes I really just sit. I'm not listening to music. I'm not watching television. I'm not on the phone. I really need a moment to reset by just sitting. And when I'm sitting, I'm really listening because I don't know what God is going to tell me in those moments of silence. So instead of talking, because most people, why don't you just pray? Because I don't need to always tell God, God already knows I done had a rough day. I need him to give me direction, what to do with what I was going through. I had a rough day today. It was very rough.
Once you got here, you were really good.
It was very rough. But I took a moment to sit, and to be honest, you God sent me a word in the middle of my day by somebody I never even expected. And so it let me know that he sees me and he's thinking about me. And when I got off of work, after I took a moment to sit, I made a phone call and I talked about my day. And my accountability partners are good in helping me move the needle, right? So I don't always have to be the strong one. I have other people in my life that allow me to be vulnerable enough that I know that they're going to take care of me and I'll be okay. And that's one of the things we should realize. Allow yourself to have people in your life that allow you to be vulnerable enough that they'll hear you, but they're not going to beat the drum with you to leave you in that place, but they allow you to move to the next place. Those are the people that I have in my life. You had a bad day, but you learned something. You're not going to do it again, right? So I have those kind of people in my life.
Kalandria, this question is for both of you, but I'm actually going to ask it to Kalandria. Are there any activities or hobbies that make you feel calm and relaxed?
Yes. For me, I'm a binge watcher personally. So I like to be alone and just in a dark room and just watch show after show, movie after movie, and just be in my own world.
I like it.
That's a good. LaDonna, why don't you answer that question? Are there any hobbies or activities that make you feel calm and relaxed?
I love singing. I love listening to audiobooks. Um, I like hanging out with my kids because they do the funniest things. Like they could just be randomly dancing or just like making sounds or whatever. Um, and honestly, I like talking with the people in my life that give me positive energy. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a real good one. I really enjoy that. I enjoy hanging out with my girls. Calandria, this question is for you. How do you recover from failure?
Mm. So first of all, I take a
I
moment just to
told you
reflect.
that's a very challenging question.
I see. um, I just take a moment to reflect for one and just see what didn't work the first time, what I can do better on, and just try to improve for the next time. And going forward, like I'm a person that's gonna keep trying and keep wanting to fix it until until it's broken. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, LaDonna, and I think we have time for probably two more questions. Your question, oh, okay. Have you ever had to change your behavior either at work or home? If so, why did you have to change it and how did you change?
Okay, so I'm really sensitive to the moment. And it's not that I'm being fake or phony. Again, emotional intelligence, you're managing not only your emotions, but you're conscious of the emotions of others, right? So I have to be able to read where people are in that moment. And sometimes that means I need to back or I need to adjust me in order to allow them the space to actually be great, right? And that it could be I'm on 10 and they're really broken. I need to meet them where they are, right? And allow them the room to let's elevate you up so we can be in the same space together. So do I change? Yeah, absolutely. I'm amenable to change. I don't like change. I'm not gonna lie, but
She does not
I'm
at all.
amenable when it's necessary, especially if it's going to help someone else be great.
Okay. Okay. I like that.
That sounds like a very emotionally in tune response.
Yes.
Calandria, you get our last question, and I'll put some of these other questions that we've been getting coming uh, um, in the chats for y'all later. But the last question: how do you celebrate success?
So for me, I just try to take the wins with everything I do. My mom was big on like celebrating birthdays, like holidays. She was so big on just going all out for those around her. So I just try to translate that. Like she taught me a lot with that and just trying to make sure I celebrate whatever comes with that and make sure I'm proud of whatever success happens.
I'm telling you, I kind of want to be like you when I grow up. Don't you? I mean, like when I do my do over, I think I might come back just a little bit like you because you got me impressed here. I mean, for real. I wish I was. I wish I was that in touch and emotionally intelligent at 21. Because I will I will admit I was not. I thought I was, but I was not. So, question, and you have like literally a minute and a half to answer this question.
I don't
I
talk
just
that
think
loud.
it's a great question. Tell us about the time when you had to neutralize a stressful situation in a that emotional intelligence.
In a professional environment. Um, hmm. So I had an individual who was really going through it on all ends of her life, and she had to still come to work and show up. And so I'm listening in the particular situation of that person talking, and because I know her normal pattern of speech and her normal behavior, I was able to say, "Hey," and I try to do it often. You're off today. Why are you not centered? And so they know when I say, "Why are you not centered?" Like I can see you. So in that particular situation, I had to come to them and say, "You're not centered today. Tell me what's going on." And because they understood, and I think it's important in every environment, people need to understand that you really do care.
Yeah.
And they need to know you care before that moment. They need to see you care all the time.
Yes.
And so because I think they knew my character, they understood she's just trying to figure out how she can help me. And so they were able to talk about it and still press forward for the rest of their day. I don't wait till the next day or the next moment. I deal with them in the moment because the next day or the next moment may be too late.
Yeah.
And so when I see that they're off in a professional environment, I'll just pull them to the side and say, "Hey, let me talk to you." And we go from there because I don't want that moment to pass and then I get another phone call that's not great.
LaDonna and Calandria, I want to thank you. Calandria, I know you're in college, and I just want to just let you know how very proud I am of you. I know you don't know me from anybody, but as a young woman and an African American young woman, you make me very proud. And
Thank you.
I wish you all the luck. I want you to just keep doing all the great things that you have been doing. LaDonna, always, thank you so much for coming and sitting and sharing with us. Next week, we are going to be joined by Dr. Monique Thompson.
Yes,
She's
she's
going to
dope.
close out our talk about mental health. Depression, anxiety, and behavior disorders are among the leading causes of illness and disability among adolescents. As LaDonna was talking earlier, suicide is the fourth leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds. The consequences of failing to address adolescent mental health conditions extend into adulthood, impairing both physical and mental health and limiting opportunities to lead fulfilling lives as adults. That is why the work that Bridging the Gap Foundation is doing is so important. As we discussed, Bridging the Gap is on a mission to address the disparities associated with mental health and access to quality care within undeserved communities through acknowledgement, advocacy, and assistance to people with mental health challenges. As a nonprofit, they are committing to assisting communities in Dallas with help and hope for those struggling with mental health issues. I want to once again thank you, LaDonna, thank you, Kalandria, and most importantly, thank all of our audience. Thank you so much for joining in and watching on tonight, whether even if you didn't join us live and you're watching the replay. Our mental health and the mental health and emotional intelligence of our children is very important. So make sure you join us next week as we talk with the infamous Dr. Monique Thompson as we close out this discussion on mental health. Until next week, I love you and be blessed.